Welcome back to the rest of our Crystalis walkthrough. This portion of the game is short, but it is going to feel very long. We start at number 2 on the bottom right hand corner, number 3 is a town, number 5 is a cave, and then number 6 and 7 have to deal with our objective, which is calming the angry sea. Inside this little beach outpost, we see a soldier who's on the lookout, and our fourth and final wise man of the game, Kenzu. He doesn't want to be bothered with us, but what is bothering him? Let's use telepathy and risk a breach of confidence. So he lost something. The wise men know when we're using an ability on them though, so he must know that we're checking him out. Gives me the feeling that Kenzu is the free spirit of the wise men group. And we'll take note of that. Special glasses to get to that lighthouse. But Tornell replenishes our MP. This is why the shell flute is one of my favorite items of the game. One of my favorite moments in video games is when you gain the ability to freely and quickly pass through a body of water. Conversely, my least favorite part of video games is when you get to slowly pass through a body of water. Now as we head to the west and then south, we're going to find the entrance to the underground channel where we originally found our dolphin that needed a medical herb, and within that underground channel we're going to find Kenzu's missing item. It's right along the north part, but don't hug the wall. It's just a little bit underneath the northern portion of the cave. That took me a lot longer than it should have. Now we're not able to use this love pendant yet. Kenzu won't take it from us. But let's go and talk to Asina now that we have it, and we're going to see a little bit of lore about this game. So Kenzu and Asina have a relationship. That's actually a nod to SNK's video games. Asina should actually be called Athena, like Eris in the 1997 Final Fantasy VII should have been called Aerith. And these two characters are a nod to Kenzu and Athena from SNK's Psycho Soldier. The Athena in that game is a descendant of the main character of SNK's famous arcade game and infamous console game of Athena. If you're a fan of the King of Fighters series, you also know that Kenzu and Athena are recurring characters in that series. They even appeared in a Japanese-only PlayStation game, Athena, Awakening from the Ordinary Life. Obviously, she's a fan favorite. Even got her own TV show. In fact, in the intro to part 1 of this walkthrough, she is the fighter on the left during the King of Fighters clip. She's also a Spirit Fighter sticker in Smash Bros. Ultimate, if you downloaded Terry's DLC. Okay, back to business. We are at the town of Joel, and to the west is Evil Spirit Island. Even in Japanese, that's what it translates to. So the people are a little spooked, having an Evil Spirit Island right next door. We'll take a note of that. A Dragonian is there, stirring up trouble. Now there's nothing new in the item shop, but it is interesting to note that an old item has made a return, the alarm flute. And the alarm flute is a story-based item. When RPGs do this and they bring a story item back, that means something likely is coming up that we will have to use that story-based item on. So we'll pick one of them up just to be safe. Empty shed? Or is it? Here's the elder with his daughters. We're catching up to Messia. Hopefully Messia has abilities like us and she can handle herself. Now Ralph and Clark is a reference to another SNK franchise, Ikari Warriors. If you played that game, you may be confused at this, because in the American version, they renamed the characters Paul and Vince for some reason, but their names are actually Ralph and Clark. They also made appearances in other games, Metal Slug, King of Fighters, and they were also a spirit fighter in Terry's DLC on Super Smash Bros. So as you can see from Kenzu, Asina, Ralph, and Clark, SNK was doing crossovers before Marvel made it cool. And you can play many of these games by purchasing them individually on Nintendo's online shop, but you can play just about all of them if you simply pick up SNK's 40th anniversary collection. And I might do it one day for the historical value. I'm not sure how much fun the games are, but Ikari Warriors was SNK's big break in the US market, and the arcade version of Athena did really well in Japan. Most of the games in the collection can be played as their arcade or console versions. But of course, to me, the best game in that set would be Crystalis. Now here is the cave that we will be traversing. We see the 3 enemies in the bottom left-hand corner. We've already encountered them before. They may look new, but they really aren't. They have the same stats, same elemental weaknesses as their different colored counterparts that we've already met in Portoa. Now you've got good items in this cave. Particularly at number 5 is the Iron Necklace. It does what the shield ring does for your armor. But be aware that when you get to number 5, there is a mimic chest on the opposite side of that subterranean river from the Iron Necklace. But anyway, aside from these familiar enemies, you will come across a dark green dragon, which will paralyze you. And here is the first path on your way to the Iron Necklace. The white circle is where we start. You will go around and make 2 ice bridges. It's not a bad idea to pick up that magic ring. After you go through A, you'll pick up on the bottom map, and you'll wrap around to the left, crossing an ice bridge in order to get your Iron Necklace. The Iron Necklace, like the shield ring, will double your defense, but it will double the base defense against enemies' physical attacks. Not ranged, but up close. Continuing on in our path now, we'll go from number 5 there, follow the red path, all the way through until you get to a new obstacle in the game. There's a pit at number 6. You have to wait for the platform, step on it to cross the gap, and if you fall, it'll take you to the white circle on the first floor. You'll have to climb back up that way. But anyway, it's a very simple 2 or 3 turns to get to the end of the cave and to a town that is desolated. We can only go inside the second house. And in the basement, we will find the elder of Joel's brother. And now we have the name of the Dragonian stirring up all the trouble. Now this is why this chapter is short but feels long. We've just gone through a cave, and these aren't enemies. They won't attack us. They're the townspeople that have been turned into zombies. But now that we've gone through this cave, we have no area where we can recharge, note in, to refill our hit points and our mana points. So hopefully you've brought enough of these Fruit of Powers to stay active. We did pick up a magic ring that would replenish our MP to max in the last cave, but now we go right into a fortress without a real opportunity to recharge. Now as we enter, this fortress is my exception to the picking the cave clean rule. We're already here with limited resources, and if you explore the dungeon to the left of the entrance, there really isn't that much that makes exploring and picking the cave clean worth it. There is a Fruit of Power, but after taking out the enemies along the way, it probably is something that you will use up, and you'll end up with less MP than what you started with. So I would suggest just continuing on to the right when you walk in the cave. We have two enemies there pictured. They're familiar, the Dragonian Soldier and the Pterodactyl. We fought them already before. But new enemies would be the Moth that releases a paralyzing circle of dust when you defeat it. And then you have these invisible wizards. In order to make them reveal themselves, you have to hit them with a level 3 charge of your sword. Now entering into the fortress, like we said, enter in at number 1, turn to the right, and you'll come across a very familiar enemy. The movement and the attacks of this enemy are exactly the same. It hits harder and it takes more attacks to kill than originally. Interestingly, if you switch swords during an explosion, the explosion's animation will change to match your sword. Now continuing through the fortress, we'll go through door B to come out the other door B. That's where we will face our moths and invisible wizards. Wrap around this fairly difficult hallway to get to door C, which will lead out to the other C circled here, which will lead us to the boss room. Here's Messia. Or is it Messia? Go around to the back, and the real Messia warns us that we've fallen into a trap. And the extent of this trap is that we cannot return to the boss room, and we have to fall down this pit in front of Messia, which will drop us right back to the beginning of the fortress. We would have to do the whole area all over again. So instead, when we come across the fake Messia, attack her with your sword. And now we begin the boss fight against the second of Dragonia's finest 4. She stays still when she's attacking you. When she's not attacking you, she moves around the room. So to hit her with a 3rd charge of your sword while she's attacking would give you plenty of hits against her. So we have not caught up to Messia just yet. The broken statue is an important story item. We can go up and fall down this pit as a shortcut to exit the fortress, and we will see that the curse on the townspeople has been lifted. Now let's see what information we can glean. We'll take a note of that altar for the statue of gold. But we have a broken statue. A glowing lamp will fix our broken statue in the lighthouse. Alright, those eyeglasses will be important. They are basically X-ray goggles. What a nice guy. Crossing the whirlpools is calming the angry sea. So we can turn the broken statue into the statue of gold and place it on the altar. We will take this information with us back to the village of Joel. I like to spend money and always have a pair of warp boots in my inventory so that even if I'm out of mana points, I can still get myself out of a bind. Go into the inn to recharge our MP. Townspeople are no longer on edge. Benefit to the economy. It feels good to see the positive reaction of the townspeople after we save the day. Yeah, we do too. So where do we use these eyeglasses that Clark gave us? Go into the shed, connect it to Ralph's house, and use it just like a consumable. Go through a very linear, no enemies in this cave. There's the lighthouse. And a familiar face sleeping inside. Kenzu, the wise man, quote unquote. We get our alarm flute that we bought earlier. Relatably, he is not happy to be so rudely awakened. And he leaves behind the glowing lamp. Just use the glowing lamp as a consumable, and our broken statue is fixed. Now we head straight for the altar. Interestingly, in the Japanese translation of this game, the original, Kenzu was drunk when you first met him, and he was talking about the item that he lost. But they took that out in the English text. Also, the statue of gold in the original Japanese was actually called the goddess statue. And this song is hopping. One of my favorite songs in the game. And just northwest of Evil Spirit Island is a very small island with the altar. Equip your statue of gold and use it to calm the angry sea. That's the most video game sounding sound effect in the entire game. Now there was an obstacle up to the north. There was a whirlpool blocking our way. We can now move through these two stones. Barrier is like refresh in that it uses mana for as long as you hold the A button down. We have a new objective and a new character to meet, Azteca the Grand Puba. He's called the Grand Master in Godslayer. We're going to see a lot of story-heavy dialogue. As you can see in this text box, they mention the metal that the people of Leaf were mining while in captivity. But this story heaviness helps us to see what life is like near the Dragonian Empire. Now the story helps us to see a resistance with Azteca as its leader. Soldiers in the town don't like the way we look. They don't seem threatened by a fully equipped warrior walking into town. We've got better gear in the armor shop, but no special properties, just higher defense. And we have all familiar items in the item shop. Now we do have one objective in this town, given to us by a familiar face. So Kenzu is somewhere hanging around Swan. And we will need to fulfill this objective in order to leave Swan, because these guards have the door locked down tight. We can defeat them with the Sword of Wind, but even after defeating them, the door remains closed and locked. So let's begin our search for Kenzu. There's a dead giveaway, and in Godslayer he's talking about alcohol. Now here's a little insight into the wise men. Paralysis does not work against the wise men as far as putting them to sleep, but it will disrupt whatever spell they have active. And now we continue our pursuit. There's an extra dancer in the bottom left corner. And he's busted again. Now you remember the love pendant that we picked up in the last chapter. He will accept it from us now. And he still won't go to Mount Hydra like the rest of the wise men want him to. But now that we have the ability to change, we can get out of Swan and continue in our adventure. Now I always think this is a beautiful thing when developers do this. You have this ability, all 4 of these forms that you can take, you will have to use each one of them to progress through the game or to obtain an item. I like this better than games that give you an option of an ability, but you never really have to use it, and sometimes you never do. But in Crystalis, every ability is significant, and I admire that forethought on the part of the developers. The townspeople are treating us differently now that we have our disguise, and the soldiers as well are asking us why we aren't at our post. They don't know who we are, they just know we're not where we're supposed to be. But the guards recognize us as a soldier and send us on our way. Now we open up to Goa Plains. In order to proceed with the story, we really just have to go straight to number 2. Number 3 is the capital of the Dragonian Empire, and we'll take a little detour there on the way to Mount Hydra. And the Dragonian bowmen out in this field recognize us as an enemy, so we need to pop our disguise and get into battle mode. So at the beginning of this game, it mentions a tower in the sky, and the origin of that tower is a bit conflicted. The opening of the game says the people of Earth erected this tower as a way to absolve their sins or to banish the evil of technology. I always thought that the best scientists of the world made that weapon during the war, but didn't have the resources to destroy it after humanity was almost wiped out, and so they decided the best thing to do was send it to the sky unmanned and out of reach. But I digress. The instruction booklet says that it was Dragon himself who built the tower, but that would be a huge plot hole, as we will see later in this walkthrough. I have my own theory on it, but I don't want to spoil it. Now, the Game Boy Color version of Crystalis straightens out that part of the story, but the adjustments they made were drastic, and they were not warmly welcomed by the fans. I also don't like that the Game Boy Color named the main character Semia, which is just a jumbled version of Messia, the hero's counterpart. Messia is a meaningful name, and a word jumble is not, so I never really liked that. But anyway. Notice how these towns that are subjected to Dragonia, they don't have town music, they have field music, where you normally fight enemies. That's a nice little touch from the developers to get us into the right feeling for a town that's not really friendly to the hero. Now in Godslayer, the text of the people made it more clear that the people of this town had been brainwashed by Emperor Dragon. There's reference to that tower. And our friend Kenzu in disguise. There's some dire news. Now, as we go into this bar, pay attention to the dialogue of the lady. That's a hint that the people of Dragonia were brainwashed. And again, in the Japanese text of Godslayer, it was a little more clear. Now we'll leave town and continue in our quest towards Mount Hydra. The mountain music has kicked in, but this always threw me off because I'm used to this music being played to a snowy mountain. This is the opposite, an active volcanic mountain, which is the reason Dragonia needs a special metal to invade Chiron. We're going to show a map of the area in a moment, but for now we're going to go straight to the town of Chiron. They are not welcoming us in. Apparently nobody told them we were coming, so we will use the ability to change into a more familiar face to them. And they're friendly enough. Now just entering, listen to the music. You can tell the desperation of the situation just by the music of this particular town. We have caught up once again to Akahana the Red Nose. He must have been gone when the brainwashing occurred. Strong suggestion. Buy all the magic rings that you can. This is the best price for them in the game, and at this point in the game, all of your spells do what any item you have can do. So fill up if you can. Remember, your Sacred Shield can resist paralysis. Now there's a limitation in the English text that prevents you from reading who the speaker is, and that's a shame because it hides a side character. That girl with the purple pigtails is actually Stom's girlfriend, Marna. Now, in addition to the music, the text of the characters help us to see just how dire the situation is as Chiron resists the Empire. We can see training, but the students are not advanced enough to truly resist the might of Dragonia. Dragonia has made armor from the metals they forced the people of Leaf to mine. Now let's see what happens when we talk to Stom as Stom. And Akahana as Akahana. Alright, enough games, let's go see Zebu. There is the fondly remembered typo, Styxy. Now in Godslayer, the cave of Styx is actually called Hell, which I don't think is the biblical hell since we have to climb a mountain to get to it. Now you notice as we leave the town with no side quests, we only have a main quest. That's because the story is picking up. And I think modern developers can take a lesson from that. We don't need an arbitrary number of side quests at every single town to interrupt the flow of the story just because. We are now entering the cave of Noopah, if I'm reading the instruction booklet right. And our traverse through this cave is going to be very simple. We start at C, there in the upper right portion, and we're going to go around to E. The rest of these caves we don't have to traverse until later on in the game. Here's one new enemy inside the cave, this green flailer. Ranged attacks are definitely going to be your friends fighting against him. And then as we step outside, we come out at E, and we just have to hug the left wall to wrap around to 5. That's the gate to Styx, and that is our destination for the story, currently. We have an annoying enemy here. When he is in puddle form, he can't be damaged, and I don't know, unless it's just random, when he pops up so that you can damage him, which can lead to some pretty annoying confrontations. In fact, full disclosure, I got a little tired of fighting these puddle enemies, and I decided to just pass them up. I'm only a man. Alright, now our purpose for being here. We get the key to the cave of Styx, open the gate, and head on in. Here we can make use of our barrier ability, and you will notice that this cave is small but significant. To the right path from the entrance hallway is the best shield in the game, but we can't get to it right now. So instead, we're going to go to the left, make a couple ice bridges, go up the stairs at A, cross the gap with the moving platform at 4, and then finally get to the strongest sword available to us right now, the Sword of Thunder. We have 3 new enemies, a wizard that is easily defeated if you come at him from the side, a red lizard that is poisonous to the touch, and an eyeball that will shoot a petrifying gaze at you. Once you make it to your prize, the wise men will immediately contact you. And now we discover the hero's purpose. So here's the big picture. Azteca was there 100 years ago when the hero and Messia went to sleep, and they would be awakened when the world needs them. With this information, our hero heads to Dragonia in order to save Messia and confront the Empire. Goals. All of the townspeople now wish our hero well as we head for the Dragonian capital of Goa. Now here's a demonstration of the formidable level 1 attack of the Sword of Thunder. It has a nice little 3-part spread to it. And now that we've been to Chiron, Kenzu is willing to share more information. Here is the plot hole. If Dragon built the tower himself, he wouldn't be trying to get to the tower to find more power. Which, I'm sure that they smoothed that out in the Game Boy Color remake, but I like Dragon seeking the tower more than Dragon being the one who built the tower. The stage seems set for a showdown, but the Emperor has already made his move. We must hurry back.